Hello out there in WireCare land. I'm Tony from Analog Motorcycles. Today we're talking about wire harnesses. So today I'm going to go over a few products that we use when we rebuild a wire harness. This particular wire harness is for the Hyper 8 race bike that we race. We are upgrading the ECU, which required upgrading the wire harness to a different model. With that, we've stripped all the lighting out of it because we don't use lights on our wire harnesses for the race bikes. Because of the sort of limitations on what we're doing, we need various products. So today, I'm going to go over what some of those products are. The F6 split braiding sleeving. This allows you to go around wire harness areas that you can't put normal traditional sleeving over because it has a harness block or something like that. So this is a very clean way to get bulk of wire, however there's different sizes, however thickness or whatever the diameter is that you need. And then once you have it all figured out, WireCare offers the Seal silicone tape. It doesn't have adhesive, it actually just sticks to itself. It's pretty amazing stuff. So this is a great finish on the F6 split braiding. We also will come across areas where we need the spiral wrap. We just like this because it's clean, easy, comes in a variety of colors. This will allow you to group certain sections of wiring together that may have some old sleeving on it, may have some old heat shrink on it. Spiral wrap is a fantastic option, also available in several different sizes and colors. We go through a lot of the braiding here, and this particular application on the Hyper 8, we decided to use the Flexo sleeving. This is the FR or Flame Retardant, black and red. Super easy to use, cuts with a hot knife very easily. When I use this, I will cut it to length, slide it on. I will use some 3M Super 33 Plus E-tape to make sure it doesn't move around. I'll take both ends. Then I'll go through and find whatever selection of heat shrink tubing that works over it, slide that over, heat it up with a master heat gun, and then you have a nice clean finish. We'll also end up crimping and shrimping with our Pressmaster stripper cutter, and then we also have the crimpers as well. So these are a handful of products available at wirecare.com that will get you through rebuilding a wire harness either from scratch or modifying one that you already have that you want to tailor and clean up. Now I'm going to switch over and we're going to do a couple sections of it to kind of give you an idea of how these products work in application. So after I take a harness, I strip out everything that I don't need, obviously following the wiring schematic from the motorcycle, and then I will put marks on certain things. So for instance, this right here is going to be coming out of this section. So I put a little piece of red tape there, these go together. And then when it gets to this point, they need to start splitting off. These three wires go to one thing, this wire goes to another, and this wire keeps on traveling to something else. They all three go to three different points on the motorcycle. So I'm gonna want individual braiding from this point to each end. But this section here, it can be combined. So I mark it with tape so that I know what goes where, and then cut and apply the braiding as needed. This has a section of the F6 split sleeving, and at this point it splits apart. A bunch of the wires go to the back of the bike, and then a bunch of these wires go to other points on the bike. So I marked where I need them to start splitting up with this a little bit of heat shrink here, just so that I knew where I wanted them to start splitting. So after this point, pretty much, each of these sections are going to be going to various parts on the bike. So they're going to go on individual runs. This section right here though is all together. It's going to be bundled, it's going to end up zip tied to the frame. So it's too small in my opinion to put a section of the split tubing or split sleeving. So I'm just going to use a piece of shrink tube, put it on here, and then seal tape that joint. So we have that shrink tubing right tucked up in there. All of our wires that we need are at their heat shrink that I had marked. So we have plenty of room to send these wires in whatever direction that they need to go. I'm not going to heat up this side of it because I'm going to slide more heat shrink tubing and sleeving into here later, and then I'll shrink the whole thing together. But for now, I'm going to heat this part, and then I'm going to use the seal tape to finish this off. The blue side is the side that actually adheres to itself. The black side, or the non-blue side, is what goes to the outside. This on here. Wrap it around. And now we have a nice, clean, finished end to where these split. Like I said, I'll heat this up once I finish the sleeving on this section. Okay, so we're gonna run some sleeving on this section right here. Now, when you're figuring out the length, it's best to try to put it on the section you're going to do, mark it, then pull it off. I know that this diameter is going to spread a little bit because these wires are a little bit thicker than what this shows on the interior diameter. So as that stretches, it actually shrinks the length a little bit. So I'm going to compensate that by just going from end to end, knowing that it's going to not end up fully end to end, but actually a little bit short, which is going to help me because then I can put electrical tape and then the shrink tubing to clean it up. So we're going to start feeding our wires in. We have it. So those wires are going to stay together from that point to that point, and then after this tape they're going to start splitting off. So I'm going to put a little piece of V-tape to hold my sleeving. Move this out, make sure I can take all the slack out of that. Put a piece there. Okay, then we're going to put a piece of shrink tubing right at the end there. When you're going to run your shrink tube on, so you don't have to try to get it over the sleeving. So sleeve right there. Now you want to be careful when you use a heat gun on the shrink tubing near the sleeving, because if you heat it up too quick, you'll actually melt the sleeving. You don't want to do that. So just keep the heat gun moving. That's a nice finished end right there. I'll probably throw a piece of seal tape right there at that joint. This goes in the fuse block mount, and then these start sending over to the engine points. So I would put sleeving on each of these sections, figure out where my harness end is, also put the electrical tape holding it there, and then the heat shrink tubing to give it a clean look. But that's how I start tailoring a whole wire harness. Hope that's helpful. And here is the final harness. Sleeved, shrink tubed,